This is AP Statistics 2025 free response questions. This is my sample answer and how I would answer the question if I was taking the exam. So this is number 4. Number 4 says a software application lets users enter questions to receive answers in the forms of images, text, or videos. Research indicates that 22% of high school students in Country W uses the app to help them with their homework at least once a week. Karen is an AP Stats student in Country W at a high school that has more than 2,000 students. She believes the proportion of all students at her school who use the app to help them with their homework at least once per week is greater than the proportion of her country. To investigate her belief, she took a simple random sample of 130 students from her school and found that 38 of the sampled students use the app to help them with their homework at least once a week. Is there convincing statistical evidence at 0.05 significance level to support Karen's belief? Justify your answer with the appropriate inference procedure. So the first thing I would do here is follow my 4 C's, so communicate, conditions, calculate, conclusion. And I would start with my communicate. And the first thing I would mention is the type of procedure. And this is a one sample z-test for proportions, because she only took one sample of 130 students and found that 38 of them used the app. So it's a one sample for proportions. We're going to define P, and we're going to take it exactly from the problem. So P is the proportion of all students at her school who use the app to help them with homework. Since they mention a significance level, we know that we are going to do a significance test, so we have to identify the hypotheses. So our null hypothesis is that P is equal to 0.22. Okay, so what this is saying is that 22% of all high school students in Country W use the app. And the alternative hypothesis is P is greater than 0.22 because she believes that her school uses the app more, so more than the average 22%. I'm then going to find the P hat value, which is 38 over 130, and that gives us 0.292. And the reason for this is we're going to end up using P hat later on, so might as well just write it down in the beginning so we have it right off the bat. And then I'm going to identify alpha, which is my significance level, as 0.05. Okay, now I'm going to do the conditions. Okay, and remember, for conditions, we have to prove 3 things: random, independent, and approximately normal. So we know that this is random because in the problem, they say take a random sample of 130 students. So that's good enough for us to check it off and say, yes, this condition is met. Next is independent. And in order to prove that this is independent, we're going to use the 10% condition. And the 10% condition states that our sample has to be less than or equal to 10% of the population. Well, so that is sample less than or equal to 10% of the population. Well, our sample is 130, and 10% of the population given, they said more than 2,000, so I could just use 2,000. Well, 10% of 2,000 is 200, so 130 is less than or equal to 200, so this condition has been met. Lastly, we're going to prove normality, or approximately normal. And we do that by proving the large counts condition. And then remember, for the large counts condition, that is n times p is greater than or equal to 10, and n times 1 minus p is greater than or equal to 10. and I would just plug in the sample size and the probability. So I have 130 times 0.22, which is equal to 28.6, which is greater than or equal to 10, so that's good. And then 130 times 1 minus 0.22, which is equal to 101.4, is greater than or equal to 10. So that condition is met as well. Let me write this a little better. 101.4 greater than or equal to 10. That's good. Okay. Next is our calculations. Okay. So since this is a z-test, I know I need to find the z-statistic. And the formula for the z-statistic is equal to p hat minus p divided by the square root of p times 1 minus p over n. Plugging in those numbers is 0.292 minus 0.22 divided by the square root of 0.22 times 1 minus 0.22 divided by 130. And this gives me 1.98173. Again, if you are doing this on the exam, you don't need to include the formula, so you just need to include the answer for the z-statistic and then the probability that we're going to find next. And so in order to find that probability, I go back up to my alternative hypothesis, and I see that p is greater than 0.22. So I need to find the probability that z is greater than the value that I just got, 1.98173. And in order to find that, I'm going to use the normal CDF on my calculator with lower bound equal to 1.98173, upper bound equal to 1E99, so infinity. And then my mu and my sigma staying 0 and 1. And this gives me 0.023755 as my probability. And then lastly, for my conclusion, just clear some space right here. For my conclusion, I am going to compare my probability to alpha. So since 0.023755 is less than alpha equal to 0.05, we reject the null hypothesis and have convincing evidence that the proportion of students at her school is greater than her country.